Hey guys, once again, I'm recording in my car. I've got my windows down because it's kind of warm. Hopefully there's some type of work being done around the corner, so hopefully that's not too loud. So I am making this video really more for my foreign audience than Americans. If you're American, sure, listen in. I want to talk just really briefly about a school shooting that recently happened in the state of Georgia. So I'm a Georgia guy. I've lived my entire life in Georgia with the exception of maybe 7 years. And I've lived in all parts of Georgia. I grew up in the North Georgia mountains. I've lived on the coast. I've lived in the metropolitan area of Atlanta for several years. I've lived in the agricultural South. So I've lived in every part of Georgia pretty much. And I think me trying to explain this concept to Americans, and maybe like trying to explain the concept of water to a fish. So I'm targeting the foreign audience with this. And the question I want to answer that I keep hearing foreigners bring up in comment sections and just in conversations, why don't Americans do something about all the guns? Every time there's a school shooting, they're like, why don't the Americans do something about the guns, right? So for you guys to understand this, because some of these countries, they've had that experience. Like I think in 2019, there was I think it was the Christchurch shooting in New Zealand. It was a mass shooting, and New Zealand was like, end of this, we're changing the laws. In America, there's no mass shooting which is going to make us change the laws, it seems. So other countries have experienced this and did something about it. All right. So why don't Americans do anything about it? What you have to understand is, if you ask an American about this who is quote unquote pro-gun, the thing that they tell you really isn't quite the reality. They may talk about the Second Amendment, really forgetting what the Second Amendment completely says. It says something about a maintained militia or something. They ignore that. They just focus on the gun part. And then they talk about safety. How they want to be safe in their homes. It's kind of a circular thing. There's so many guns which make us less safe, so you need guns. You need more guns to make you safe, whatever, right? Or they'll talk about hunting, or they'll talk about, you know, something like a gun culture heritage, right? Other countries hunt. Other countries have like a culture of hunting. Other countries maintain militias, like the Swiss. I think the Swiss, like every house has like a rifle or something, because, you know, every Swiss is a rifle person first or something like that. I don't know. It's none of those things, guys. The way you have to understand guns in this country is that you have to think of guns as a fetish. And I don't mean fetish in the sense of like a sexual object, like a sexual turn on. I mean the second definition of a fetish, the anthropological definition of a fetish. An object which has some type of magical property because it has a spirit or something, some type of religious meaning. For a lot of Americans, the gun is their fetish. It's a totem which represents their power, right? So to have a gun, and the bigger gun is like a symbol of virility. That's kind of what it is. Now, okay, here's an example. If I'm a politician and I'm running for office, I'm going to show certain things I'm going to signal certain things to Americans. I'm going to signal that I love America, right? So I might have like a flag shirt or something, or have a flag pin, which other countries think is weird because you don't really see their flags all over the place. United States, you see American flags everywhere. We don't think anything about it. It's probably a little strange if you're coming from another country, but yeah, you have an American flag. You may also show that you're a godly person, basically Christian, right? So you may take a picture in front of a church or hold a Bible or something like that, and then you show that you're a family person. So you're a conservative family person. Even the Democrats do this. They'll dress modestly and they'll be standing next to their wife and their kids or something, which, you know, let's be honest, you can be a trash husband and probably still be a pretty good executive, but that's not the point. You have to signal these things. But another thing that a lot of politicians have to signal is that they believe in the fetish. So what you'll do is you'll see a lot of politicians, often with their families, holding rifles. because it's along with those other things. They have to signal that they believe in the spirit of the fetish, just like you do. Just like you believe in God, just like you believe in liberty, just like you believe in the flag, you believe in the fetish. And if you don't really buy into this, here's the thing. And if I can find it, I'll actually put it in the comment section. When Brian Kemp, who's the governor of Georgia, ran the first time, I think it was the first time, he did an ad where he's actually shooting, I think it was a shotgun, but he actually shows two totems, two fetishes for Americans, specifically Southern Americans. He shows the, well, not Southern Americans, but largely rural Americans. He shows off his firearm and he shows off his pickup truck. He shoots the firearm and he shows his pickup truck, which goes into the whole thing of why Americans have issues with trying to have smaller cars, more fuel efficient cars. That's a whole nother conversation. The truck is a fetish too. The pickup truck, which trucks nothing, which is pristine, which never goes off road, is a fetish too. So he signals to his constituency that he believes in the fetish. If I can find the ad, I'll put it in there. So what you have to do after there is a mass shooting, and I guess in order to keep the fetish from, the fetish has done something. The spirit encompassing the fetish has done something bad. So in order to kind of like appease the spirit of the collective spirit of the fetishes, you have to say, we give our thoughts and prayers. You have to do that incantation. So that's why you always hear usually Republican politicians who, well, they'll be the ones who sit there and say we need more guns to protect us from the guns or something. But then they have to say thoughts and prayers, because if they don't say thoughts and prayers, then more bad things may happen. So it's actually a very supernatural thing, but that's why foreigners, that's why, speaking to foreigners, that's why Americans are so obsessed with guns, because basically the guns are supernatural beings, and we have these things that we have to do in order to function. You have to show, you have your fetish, which has the spirit. The spirit gives you power. Sometimes the spirit gets out of hand and it does bad things. And then in order to appease the spirit, you have to say thoughts and prayers. So like I said, I'll put that video in the comment section. And like I said, just see how many times you hear politicians say we give our thoughts and prayers. And that's the explanation. So foreigners, you're welcome.